All right, Stabber Traders, welcome on back here this Monday afternoon, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Should be good to go across all ends here, across social media, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and then for all of us inside the live trading room, as usual, great to see Chuck, Michael, Jeff, and Ron. Good afternoon to all of you folks as well. Let's hop right to it. So right now, folks, I'll tell you the markets provided us a bunch of opportunity today, even with the S&P kind of grinding lower right now at this point. But I'll tell you, I mean, IQ's on the screen now, up over 10%, more for an afternoon move. Perhaps this could be a really good trade going into the close. It's moving back on up towards the highs that it had from the beginning of this year, let alone last year, just kind of right here, right off this peak. So looking pretty interesting, pretty sharp, albeit relatively slow on the 1 minute chart. More of a level one stock, if anything, one or two. But I'll definitely start by putting this IQ at least on our watch list to start. We had our eyes on just a bunch of different trades from today. The GMVD trade, which is still number 2. The GNS, which just up until maybe like an hour ago, that was one of our best trades that we had. I know Rich was calling out the BBAI trade, at least just before this meeting started. I'll tell you what, we'll go from top to bottom. We'll just recap everything that we caught from this morning. We don't have a phase class today, folks, meaning phase 1, 2, or 3. Phase 3 will actually be tomorrow with Fausto trading live the market open and close. But coming up later on today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, exclusive to the folks that had taken up the Black Friday Bookmap coaching offer we offered back in November, we're going to be doing the first of those 2 group Bookmap coaching sessions. Essentially, it's a phase 3 class with trading live with myself going into the close, just going to have the Bookmap page up the whole time and, just going through the motions of it all. So I look forward to it, but we got class coming up ahead, so to say, for those 8 or 9 folks that will be joining me. But let's just go from top to bottom, build up this list pretty quickly then. IQ already on our list to start, so we'll kind of pass forward from this trade. All right, HSCS. I mean, talking about all the others, I mean, I should have easily have slipped in the HSCS trade. I actually didn't trade this thing all day today myself. Ended up making a big pop just shortly, prior to the open. Then, ended up making a big pop afterwards. Consolidated up around 140, 150, and as soon as it broke higher from that point, it's easy to say, but completely took off. Ended up topping off just around like 220-ish, 230-ish. Broke higher just a moment ago, but I mean, it's still looking pretty active going into the afternoon. If anything, you would want to see just simple resistance get flipped back into support, perhaps if not off of 240 in particular, then really just look for that to be up a little bit higher at 250. But I'll put this back on our list here, the HSCS trade. If it ends up tanking from this very point, still building lower highs as we continue this meeting, then at that point, then just take it off the list. But so far still pretty active. Maybe day traders will give it one more push. But we keep going, though. The GMVD, you can see I marked out this chart here. I mapped it out. I was looking for a nice push on this at some point today. And when it ended up actually pushing, well, I wasn't there for it, unfortunately. Ended up making a nice drop off after the open, pulling back. It was doing so in pre-market going into the open to start, but afterwards continued to drag down and down and down. Ended up holding 530 support pretty nicely, but broke lower afterwards. And right off 480, 490, that is. That was my next major support line, 490 to $5. I ended up missing this a tad late. It was pushing up towards 515, 516 by the time I kind of turned back to it. And I mean, listen, for the afternoon, early to mid afternoon, normally there isn't a whole lot out there that's like that easy to take or that good of an opportunity to capitalize on. So I wasn't going to cry over spilt milk. If it ended up completely going parabolic from 490, then obviously that's different. I could have had some good money on this trade, but we know normally the best time of the day to be trading is from the market open in the first hour and then market close final hour going into the end of the day. So perhaps I don't know if this is going to make that move again for us, the move that we wanted initially. It ended up bouncing briefly here, but right now it's just gone kind of flat in this range again between 5 and 530. And, right now, let's just see if there's anything else looking better. I don't think this is looking much better. All right, well, there's plenty of other stocks out there remaining, so we'll go from top to bottom, see what else we can grab. So BBAI, nice stock here. Ended up making a big squeeze going into the end of last week. I mean, even more than that, you could see from the daily chart. Ended up making a big gap up maybe a couple weeks prior, and then pulled back, right? Started to fill the proverbial gap there and eventually found support off of 2. But I mean, Friday from the end of last week ended up having a big pop. We had called it out then, and I mean, great continuation once again today. It took a little while for it to actually make that continuation, though, right? As you could see, ended up pulling back going into the open, after the open. Normally 10:15, 10:30 is that famed reversal time. So, just afterwards, it ended up building that support, popping kind of midday. But now at this point, since we're here on this meeting, definitely showing good strength as it's moving back up towards 350 here. I'll put this on our list, definitely, the BBAI. All right. Let's see what else we got here. GNS. I went flat just on my remaining shares on GNS before. I was in from 559, I think the price was. I ended up trying to go in from 560 and I went break even. I was playing around with it midday. So, that's where I could personally tell you, normally not a whole lot of good happens around 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 1:30. Even if you're making money, just the opportunities are limited. So I was looking for another bounce off of 560, the opening print from today. And, it ended up making a small little bounce recently, but now at this point, it's kind of flat. So maybe I come back to this by the end of the meeting, in a little bit, in 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And if it looks better, maybe I'll add it, put it on our side list for right now. All right, we got STSS spotty chart. It looked like it could fit the shoe here. $185.85 stock, trading 1.4 million shares up big. Thought there was a chance there, but just chart's not looking really that pleasant. The SPIG was looking at least a little bit more steady in terms of direction up. But right now, I mean, it looks like the volume's starting to wane down a little bit the last 1 or 2 bars. Last few bars, actually. All right, we'll kind of skim through. Carvana. All right, so we're back on Carvana then. Ended up making a big pop once again this morning. More or less, I ended up jumping on this trade right off the opening print. This was my moneymaker on the day. Ended up jumping in right from 8:38 it was, and then from that point took off. If I'm not mistaken, I may have taken like a -3 at first, or maybe break even. Just been a long day. I think it was a small loss, like -3, and then I jumped back in on the re-break of it and just right on up. Perfect move. Ended up leading to a great push, even well higher than I thought it was going to test. So I ended up closing out at 10, ended up breaking higher off of 10 later on, and I missed that run. But hey, the more times it needles this resistance and tests $10 as resistance and breaks above it, there's a chance. Look what it's doing as we're talking. So we're definitely going to follow this Carvana trade, put this back on our watch list for right now. CUEN. This was also from last week on and off. We traded the stock off of news. Kind of a cheapie, but ended up having a nice trend to it earlier today. But now at this point, kind of stalling out, making a bit of a lower high. APE, AMC dividend stock. Cold natural gas ETF. Hey, great swing trade. Bed Bath Beyond. I tried looking for a bounce on this trade later in the day, like around $3. Just didn't give it to me. So happy to be happy to be out of that one for sure by now. SoFi, same thing. We talked about this actually not in our day trading class earlier today, but in our swing trading pro course. Pretty interesting to see back in November. SoFi ended up reporting good earnings, beat revenue estimates, and they ended up raising guidance that quarter or on that day once they reported earnings. And they freaking tanked. They completely filled the pre-market gap all the way throughout the day. Just goes to show you can't buy the news, right? So SoFi today, well, history not necessarily repeating itself. I mean, it had a nice pop early today, but beat earnings and not a whole lot to show for it. Up 12%. Don't get me wrong, but right now at this point in the afternoon, if you're looking for another run on SoFi, I don't think that you're going to be getting. I'm just going to be straightforward. I don't think that you're going to get it. So. The IQ trade, a little slow. Again, we already have that on our watch list. So, that's a great one to start off on. Hopefully it becomes a little faster of a push, but, great setup on the way up towards 7. 7 and 705. I mean, it looks like you got a larger order roughly every 5 cents there. ATER, not much happening there. All right, folks, let's hop over to the loser side. If there's anything else just looking good on the way up, just pulling upward. going against the grain, perhaps. Type it in the chat or just let me know. BREA, you got note. BuzzFeed, classic example of what goes up comes back down, if not twice as fast. We'll see what happens tomorrow, perhaps, but ended up just pulling back after back-to-back green days. This stock even last week was not called out as a day as a swing trade. It was called out primarily as a day trade. So for anyone that gambled and swung this, God bless, but you could have easily have just jumped right back in the next day trade it. So nice pop, but maybe later on this week we'll follow up with it again. All right, folks. There's got to be a few more things down percentage-wise just with the market right now. It's not as if we're getting clobbered across the board, but I'm sure that there's some name brand, something out there that we can get our hands on as a potential short. Beyond Meat, if you're able to get the shares at least, hard to borrow on TradeStation, but this looks like a pretty damn good short to myself here. I'm going to slip this on our watch list for anyone that just can get the shares for it. I'll highlight this for you folks, and otherwise, like, a really good trade. So I didn't notice this until now. Mike saying affirm at the low of the day. Yeah, it's at the lows. It's down over 5%. And should the markets break lower, this could be an opportunity for us to keep an eye on. I definitely have this in contention. I just want to kind of skim the rest of like the side list stocks that we're used to there, Mike. If nothing else is looking as weak as Affirm, then I'll put that on our main list for sure. American Airlines, the low of the day. Affirm's down more percentage-wise. There might be more eyes that kind of catch on to that Affirm there, even though American's actually breaking a little bit steadier towards, lower right now. UAL. What else we got? JetBlue. That's kind of slow for my liking, though. All right. Hey, I'll tell you. I mean, we might just kind of put Affirm on our main list at this point alongside Beyond Meat as some good short opportunities for us. Ooh, this one looks pretty good. Good short trade here. All right. I just caught this from the corner of my eye on Benzinga Pro right now. So just kind of catching a small list that I'm looking at here. U's looking pretty damn nice, and it is easy to borrow for myself on TradeStation. Billy was down big percentage-wise early, but not looking good now. AI, hey, how about this from Friday last week, from the end of last week? Down over 5% at the lows right now too. All right, we can't add too many stocks now. I don't want to build up too big of a list. So those four are down big. We'll focus on those as shorts. Beyond Meat, Affirm, AI, and then otherwise, IQ, the HSCS trade, BBAI, and Carvana. Those are from the gainer side, looking to try and see squeeze up higher. Now for GNS, this is just kind of going sideways. It's not really doing anything right now. Like I'd said before, I don't want to build up too big of a watch list now at this stage. All right. So, folks, I think that we're going to call it for right now. Current time is 2:44, making good use of my own time here. So I'm going to make sure I'm refilled up on water. Good to go for our coaching class coming up later on today, our Bookmap group coaching session later on today, the first of two, at least going into the next couple of months. Again, that's only available for those of us that had taken up the Bookmap one-on-one coaching pack back from Black Friday of November last year. So for those of you folks, just check your inbox. You should have a Zoom link out there. If not already, it should be there now. Then in the coming moments, we're going to treat it like we normally do any class when it comes to the emails and whatnot. But otherwise, for any of us just not joining me in the group coaching session later on today, best of luck trading going into the market close. For all of us in social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, I appreciate you folks sticking with me each and every day. And each and every afternoon. Good to be back in my normal saddle here with Fausto back himself in the morning. But any questions that you have, feel more than free to shoot me a quick email, josh@c2trading.com. If you're interested in joining our live trading room, just go right down to the link on the green banner below the stream just to get yourself started. All right, folks, I'll talk to you all soon. For those of us not joining me in the class, best of luck trading. Take care.